Today's video is brought to you by all of my wonderful patrons. If you want to help support the channel and get some cool perks, make sure you go check out my Patron page. Link will be in the description. Enjoy the stories. And sorry for the delay on some of these, I hope you haven't heard them all. I was trying to get them done, but I had some health issues, yada yada, excuses, whatever. Let's just get into the stories, timestamps are below if you want to skip one. That is life. So first off, this happened a few months ago. I had just moved into an apartment complex and had only a bed, a TV, a rocking chair, and an Xbox One. I work in a town that is an hour away and they didn't have anything available that I could move into, so this big city was the next closest place that was also in my price range. The first few weeks play out the same. I get up, shower, go to work for about 10 hours, come home, eat, watch a little Netflix, go to sleep, and repeat. On my days off, I travel 3 hours away to see my wife and kids. Now, we aren't divorced or separated. I had to relocate from the town we lived in to start my career in asset protection, or an APM, Asset Protection Manager. One night as I was going through my evening routine, someone knocks on my door. It is a woman. Maybe about 5'7", brown hair and skinny. She looked like she was methed out of her skull. Her eyes were barely even open. She asked to talk to someone named Jareth. I told her no one by that name lived here. She said he did. She said she was there last Thursday and he was here. She wanted to buy drugs from him and this was the address she was given. I once again told her that no one named Jareth lived here, and shut the door on her. She started banging on the door crying that she needed her fix. I told her to fuck off. After a few moments I hear someone yell at her to shut up or they'll call the cops. The banging stopped and I never saw her again. I sat back down to continue watching the movie I had on. I started thinking about what the woman had said. She couldn't have been here last Thursday. I was off work last Thursday and Friday, with my wife and children. I started to look around more closely. Nothing seemed out of place. I checked all the windows. Nothing was cracked or broken. All the security bars were locked in their places. There were no upper attic spaces nor crawl spaces. Nothing. I felt a little more secure and went about my night as usual. My next days off, I made sure everything was locked and nothing was out of place. I went to see my wife as usual. Told her what was happening. She suggested I take the pellet gun. Now I know. What's a pellet gun going to do? Well, in her thinking, it looked like a real gun. In the dark, no one can really tell the difference. Same for at a distance. Plus, it had a CO2 cartridge in it and 10 pellets. So I took it. When I got back, I looked around. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was missing. I put my stuff up as usual and turned on my Xbox. This is where I noticed something was off. When it powers on, it takes you to the home screen. On this screen, you can see the last things you were on plus the previous things you have done. When I left it last, the Netflix app should have been the first one on there. But it wasn't. Instead, it was Battlefield 1. The one before that was Mortal Kombat X. Someone had been using my Xbox. I once again did a thorough search of the apartment. Nothing. It was a couple days after that the guy across from me approached me while I was getting out of my vehicle. He said that a lot of people were coming by apartment on certain nights and making a lot of noise that kept his daughter up, and asked if I could keep it down or just stop doing whatever it was I was doing on those nights. I was confused. I must have shown it because his expression changed. He asked me if I was the one who was having people over at odd hours of the night. I told him no. I proceeded to tell him the things that were happening. I told him I'm 200 miles away on my days off. We both came to the same conclusion that someone was getting into my apartment when I wasn't there. I made the decision not to go see my family one week to see if the person using my apartment would show up. Of course, no one came that week or the week after. It dawned on me at work one day during a conversation about how shoplifters would try to see the vehicle you drove to know if you were there, that it hit me. Whoever was using my apartment knew what I drove. With that in mind, I waited till my next days off to set my trap. On the said day, I parked my vehicle 3 complexes down and walked back. I unscrewed all of my light bulbs and waited in the corner of the living room. I had let my neighbor know what I was doing in case any trouble occurred. I put my phone on its lowest brightness and had my camera ready, flash and all. I waited for 6 hours, which felt like forever, before it happened. I heard the front door knob jiggle. I got up, phone in one hand and pellet gun in the other. The door opened and someone entered, shutting it behind them. Then I heard a click, and then another. They were trying to switch on the lights. I then saw a light from the doorway. They had their phone out and were making their way into the room I was in. As soon as they entered the doorway, I snapped a picture. The brightness of the flash caught him completely off guard. He was momentarily stunned, cursing at me and trying to make his way back to the front door. I yelled at him to get out and never return. He had reached into his pocket, dropping something as he pulled out a small pocket knife. I immediately raised the pellet gun and cocked the hammer. That stopped him completely. He dropped the knife, opened the door, and ran out. My neighbor who had heard the yelling was outside of his place when the man ran out. He saw me run out of my apartment, gun and all, and asked if I had shot him. I told him no and that it was a pellet gun, but the man didn't know. I went back to the door and retrieved a pocket knife and what he had dropped. It was a key to my door. I don't know how he got it, but he had it. I showed the picture to my neighbor. He thought he recognized him, but he wasn't sure. I stayed up late that night calling my wife and telling her what had happened. The next day I went over to the complex office and told them what had happened. I brought up the fact that he had a key to my door and I wanted to know why he did. They weren't sure. Then I showed them the picture of the man, and they knew right then how he had a key. Turns out this person who was going into my apartment complex was a maintenance worker for them. He had been one of the ones renovating my apartment before I moved in. They are given keys and he must have made a copy of one. Then for nights at a time he would use it to do whatever it was he did. I must have put a hamper in his nightly business when I moved in. That is, until he figured out my routine. The man was, of course, fired from his job and prohibited from entering the grounds again. I was given 3 months free rent. I never pressed charges and let it go. I have a real gun now, just in case. My neighbor and I struck up a friendship, and now we watch each other's places when we are out of town. Hopefully this never happens again to anyone else. And yes, I had the locks changed in case you were wondering. A little preface. The whole first floor of my house is a basement and bonus room type of thing where I watch TV. You can get in from the backyard through our door, which we always keep a wooden strip in the door making it unable to open. We never take it out. On the door to get down we hung a big decorative ring with a bunch of bells on it. They make a very loud noise and are sensitive to touch. The other day I was home alone watching TV while all of my dogs were sitting in front of me on their bed. All of a sudden I heard the bells. It was as if someone was lightly opening the door or brushed by it. I was immediately terrified and tried to run through any possible scenario where the bells could have moved. No one else was home. No windows were open and all the dogs were right in front of me. I sat petrified for some time, too scared to check it out. Eventually I walked around and didn't see anything. This brings me to today. 5 minutes ago, my mom was showing a friend our house. She came up from downstairs and told me the screen door was cracked and the wood was out of the door. I honestly could not think of an explanation of why the bells rang and why the wood wouldn't be in the door. Just to add, I was just told that my grandma most likely was the one who left the door open because she was staying with us for a day. But the bells are still a mystery. This happened a few weeks ago, and although it might seem silly, I am still rattled. I am a sophomore in college and live in my sorority's house, located on my university's Greek row. My university, although reputable and typically self-contained and safe, is not located in the best area. There is quite a bit of crime in the surrounding city. We frequently get emails from our campus police describing incidents with townies causing trouble with the students. A few weeks ago, I was walking home with my roommate from the fraternity next door. As we approach my house, we see 2 randoms on the corner yelling at 2 other randoms on our porch. When we get closer to the porch, they flee in the direction of downtown. My roommate and I see 2 other housemates on the porch, with one crying. Apparently, when they were walking home from getting some late-night drunk food, they saw a group of 4 banging on our door with excessive force to the point they thought they were going to shatter the glass on either side. They kept pounding as they walked up, and my housemates asked them to leave and told them this wasn't their home. One of the individuals proceeded to ask them how they knew that, and my housemate, for the sake of the story we'll call him Sam, replied that she lived there with her 30 sorority sisters and simply knew that they did not live there. The random proceeded to scream in her face that she was a racist and other baseless accusations. My other housemate, Tara, asked the group how to get into the house, since they claimed they lived there. This resulted in the townies screaming at Sam and Tara even more. The situation escalated with the townies backing Sam into the door and yelling in her face. When Tara realized the possible dangers of the situation and went to pull Sam away and walk somewhere safe, one of the individuals grabbed Sam's hair, slammed her head into the door, punched her in the face, and then they ran off. After we arrived home, we called the police. They ended up catching the group later. They had attempted to break into 2 other houses that night, and they were only 16 years old. One had to be taken to the ER because they were so drunk they passed out. I know it sounds silly, but coming home at 4 a.m. to people attempting to break into your house and physically assaulting your housemate is pretty terrifying. This was 2015. I wasn't really actively looking, but would pop over to OkCupid every few weeks to see if anything interesting was in my inbox. Being female, I had a very attractive inbox. Sorry guys. Noticed an email from an interesting, fairly local guy. Email was alright, asking about polyamory, which I don't mind talking about if the person asking is sincerely interested and respectful. We get to chatting. I had 0 romantic and sexual interest, but thought this could be a friendship. After a few months of chatting, he found me on the Book of Faces. Asked if it was okay to send an ad request, and I agreed. We'd been chatting, getting along well, and he seemed like a nice person. A little weird, but that's okay, because I'm a little weird myself. We continued to chat here and there for about 2 years. Send birthday greetings, just casual friendship. He has asked several times to meet and to hang out, etc. I've considered it, but at the same time I was running my own business and working upwards of 70 hours a week, plus maintaining my own home, raising my younger child, older as an adult, and trying to balance 2 partners and an extremely needy, demanding workaholic client who has no boundaries. 11 p.m. phone calls occurred without a note of hesitation or remorse. On vacation? Yeah. So meetup never occurred, but we kept in touch online. Late last year, a news story broke about a man and his girlfriend raping and murdering her younger teenage daughter. I never connected the name until a friend contacted me and said, "Oh, I see you're friends with blankety blank. Did you see the news?" The news stories all use his full legal name, not his nickname. Think Richard versus Dick, which is why I never connected the two. It was him. My then online friend of 2 years had beaten, raped, strangled, and then dismembered his girlfriend's teen daughter. With his girlfriend's help. He's made several statements since then stating that he's always had this rape-murder fantasy, and that the child was very sexual, and that it wasn't fun murdering her as he apparently thought it would be. It sends chills down my spine. I dodged a bullet. Big time. Be safe out there. You never know who is on the other side of that keyboard or phone call. A quick disclaimer. I am no longer active on OkCupid. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. And if you would like to help support the channel and get yourself some other cool perks, make sure you go check out my Patron page. Yeah! So like I said, I hope you guys didn't hear all these. I started it out with the most recent story I got permission for. Those of you that are patrons and in the exclusive Discord know that I've been trying to record it the past couple of days, but my sinus issues that I've had for years are just so bad at the moment. Regardless, I finally got them recorded, and I hope you enjoyed them. And if not, just watch it again until you enjoy it. Because it will happen. I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you so much for checking out this video. And I will catch you in the next one. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Bad bye. About 5 years ago, I decided to attend a local beer festival. I'm not much of a drinker, but I do like to test the samples from around our community and support our local businesses. While I was there, I received a phone call from my ex-girlfriend. I answered and said, "Hello, Kathy." "Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet, to go over everything. They say that time's supposed to heal you, but I ain't done much healing." I responded with my typical response when she calls. "Sorry, you're breaking up. I couldn't understand you." She responds, "Hello? Can you hear me?" I tell her no and hang up. Then I get back to my beer tasting. I make my way up to one of the beer stands and fill my cup. Just as I do, a security officer comes around the corner and asks me if I have ID. Now, my ID is in my car and I can't believe I forgot it, so I take off running back to my car. He just responds, something new. Then he starts chasing after me and yells, "Stop! Drop!" So I stop immediately and drop and lay on my stomach. Then he starts yelling at me more. "Shut him down, open up shop." I just sit to myself and say, "Oh no." And then I hear him in the background saying, "That's how Rough Riders roll." At this point, I'm kinda confused, so I turn back and see him twerking. Yes, you heard me right, he was twerking. Not only that, he was repeating what he had yelled at me before. Stop, drop, shut him down, open up shop. Once again in my head, I'm just like, oh no. And again, he screams, "That's how Rough Riders roll." And then he does something that still perplexes me even more. He runs over to one of the beer stands and stands on his hands but has his legs propped up against the actual table, and then he starts twerking that way. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of twerking, but this guy was getting down. He was twerking so hard my back was hurting. I asked him if he was okay. He responds with, "All I know is pain. All I feel is rain. How can I maintain with mad shit on my brain? I resort to violence." That statement alone lets me know that I shouldn't get any closer. About this time he gets done with his twerking. I assume he's winded because he's been going at it for about 3 minutes now. He stands back up out of breath and walks up to me, introduces himself as Officer Ellis. And then he tells me that he doesn't even work there. He's not a security guard, he's just a guy who got dressed in a uniform to try and come have fun at the beer festival. But he did tell me he knows where I live and he'll come find me anytime he wants and hurt me and my family, if I can't beat him in a twerk-off. I'll save you all the embarrassing details, but I demolished him. He might have thought he was a good twerker, but nobody twerks like me. I don't even need music, I just sit there and twerk. After that, I took off out of the beer festival. I didn't want to risk having too much beer and not being able to drive and get away from this guy. So long story short, I think I saved myself a lot of trouble with a creeper who was going to creep on me after the beer festival who was pretending to be a security officer by the name of Officer Ellis. But thank God my twerking skills are next level. So, yeah, there's a nice little story for you. Nothing scarier than Officer Ellis twerking. Isn't that right, Teddy? Yeah, I know you're listening there, buddy. I'll see you down in the comments. For those of you that don't know, Teddy is an officer that's been around the channel for a while now. Big supporter of the channel as well. Don't know if he does twerking, but he does twerking in my stories, you know what I'm saying? And you got demoted to security guard in my story. How about that? You like them apples, don't you? Alright, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that story, and if you didn't, sucks to be you, I guess. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good day. And if you have diabetes, get yourself diabetes medicine, because that shit can be dangerous. You just make sure to watch those blood sugar levels. And take care of yourself over there, kid.